Welcome back to the Comp Closet podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarah Moore, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by the FMG Bikini Pro 45 Plus Champion, Danielle Pearson. Welcome.
I think it's a mouthful, isn't it?
I know you keep adding, titles and words onto
Yeah.
each title you get. I think it's pretty impressive and it's pretty cool
It's great.
to
I love
say.
it.
So, reflecting on the start of your bodybuilding journey, can you share what specifically sparked your interest in this sport and what were the key moments or influences that led you to deciding to compete?
Sure. Well, so I've trained my whole life. Like, I think I got my first gym membership when I was like 14. Fitness has always been a really big part of my life, and obviously with social media, and I always followed the former federation, and always in the back of my mind it was something that I sort of thought, oh, one day I'd love to do that. Like, it really, the glamour and everything sort of drew me to it. And obviously, it was something that just I never did. And it was a few years ago, I was looking at Worlds and sort of, just watching it, and was showing my kids, and I was like, oh, look, look at this girl, doesn't she look great? And one day I'd love to do that. And they were like, as if you would ever do anything like that. And I was like, and it was just like, it was probably just in that moment, it was just that kind of little push that I needed. And my husband was like, if you really want to do it, like, you probably should do it soon. So I knew Lenice, so I had no idea, I didn't know any coaches or anything like that. So I didn't know how to even go about it. So I just sort of looked at her post and see who she tagged, and she tagged Ali from Ali's Angels. And I sent her a message, and it was funny because at the time I thought I was in good shape. And I think my first message to her was kind of like, I think I'm in really good shape and I'd really like to compete. I didn't want to, I wanted to do it sooner rather than later, because I thought if I chose to do I probably should have waited, but if I gave myself a proper growth time, I probably would have talked myself out of doing it. I think we did maybe a 14-week prep, and yes, and that's how it all sort of came about.
Wow. And before stepping into your first prep and actually getting on stage, did you have any self doubts or limiting beliefs about yourself or the sport?
Yeah, look, I was probably a little bit naive to like what was actually involved in the sport. I think that, like I said, I thought that, things that I'd, trained for a great majority of my life, I thought that I had a really good understanding of, training and nutrition, and obviously thought I was in pretty good shape as well. And I didn't realize how much actually went into competing, and, the discipline and the time as well to grow. And when I first started, I was lucky to eat 1,000 calories a day. Like, I was not consistent with my meals. I could sort of get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go, shit, like, I haven't eaten yet. So my whole mindset of, what I thought was healthy and what was required wasn't really what it was. And it was probably maybe a little bit of a blessing to be that naive as well, because I didn't realize what I was actually in for. But it was probably the best thing as well, because it just made me so excited to learn and to see what is actually capable, and what's involved in the sport.
Yeah, I love that. And looking back to where you started, without all that knowledge and with that kind of naivety to where you are now, how has your mindset evolved?
Look, I kind of like, training for me was always just like, it was a hobby. I loved going to the gym. I thought that I knew a lot about diet, which I didn't. So it's just my lifestyle now. Like, it's transformed, the way that, I think about training, the way that I think about eating. Like, I grew up in that time and era where it was the Atkins diet. So it was, carbs were bad. So I pretty much didn't eat carbs for about 20 years. So when I first got my first meal plan from Ali, and it was basmati rice and spudlight potatoes and sweet potato, and I said to my husband, oh my God, I'm going to get fat. Like, look at all this food. Ob- Obviously, it was what my body needed, because it's like, as soon as I started eating properly, like, everything else kind of just, stepped into gear, and I started training better, and everything, started looking better. And so that on its own is probably one of the most things I'm grateful for, is just, that relationship now that I have with food and training as well. I think prior to doing this, like if I wanted to, get in shape, if there was like an event or a holiday or something, like I just do extra cardio and skip some meals. So that kind of, obviously isn't good for you and doesn't really work. So it's, what I've taken from understanding of, how to eat and how to train properly is just been the biggest change for me.
Yeah, incredible. And what advice would you give to someone who is kind of in the same position that you were when you started? Like they were maybe afraid to eat carbs and afraid to eat more food.
Oh gosh, I like it. I say to, because people I think that obviously don't understand, will probably have the same mindset as me. Like, especially when when you're competing, and they say, "Oh, you must be so hungry. You must be, it must be so hard." And I'm like, "No, it's actually like that's probably obviously when you're getting into the nitty gritty part of prep, it gets tough. But in terms of like getting to that stage, like that's not difficult at all. And to anybody that is even thinking about competing, like I couldn't recommend it anymore. Like my biggest regret is not doing it sooner, and I'm just grateful that the categories that now it wasn't a 40 plus when I started. So, for there to be a 45 plus, I think it's the only time that I've actually been excited. Like, I'm old enough. That's me.
Yes, I
So, yeah.
love how they have the age categories. Can you walk us through some of the key moments in your competing history? Like how did you go on your first show and then kind of where did you go from there?
Yeah, well, like I said, my first show was a bit of a shit show. It was um like I loved it, obviously, and I kind of, the that feeling of stepping onto stage is just, like it's, you wish you could like bottle it up and keep it forever. And the how open and warm and welcoming everybody is, like it was, you kind of, it sounds so cliche, but I kind of felt like I found my place. I felt like, wow, this is what I love, because everybody's on this same sort of journey, and it's a very kind of isolating sport. So you sort of like, you all kind of have this commonality of what you've done and what you've had to give up to be in this moment. So I loved that, but I wasn't like I fell into the trap a little bit of, like just looking at stalking people on social media and trying to, because my posing was not great, and I was trying to, like, I loved how other people did things, and I was trying to copy what they were doing rather than sort of, doing what, was natural and kind of suited me. So that was probably my biggest, like, I watched the videos back and I'm like, oh my God, it's very embarrassing. But then, obviously, like I said before, I had a really short window of hopping onto stage. So it was nice, like I understood that, that you had to grow, and and that the time had to be put in and to sort of, polish the whole presentation. So I, but I learned, I'm grateful for what I didn't get right the first time, because it really made it obvious what I needed to improve on for the next show. So, because I didn't get a call out in the first show, and I wasn't mentally prepared for that either. I didn't think I was going to win, but I remember standing up the back and they're calling out everybody's numbers, and as like, the lineup's getting bigger, and I'm sort of like, oh my God, like I could feel my eyes welling up with tears, and it was, again, like it was just that acknowledgement that, okay, I needed to put in a bit more effort for, to be competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So your first show, you didn't get a call out, which would have been so tough. And then what happened after that? Did you go into a build phase?
I didn't. I did go into a build phase, but I wasn't, to be honest, completely committed. The build phase had always kind of scared me. Like, I'm perimenopausal, and I was from, that my mind was always back in the day. Like if someone said, wow, you looked skinny, and I took it as a compliment. So like I kind of looked at the build phase of, oh my God, I don't want to get fat for one day. I didn't really understand it. So I probably didn't commit to its full potential. But I really kind of, refined the posing, and, and worked on everything else. And I grew a little bit, but not as much as, like, I still had that kind of bit of a mental block that, that I didn't understand that, that's actually where the magic is done. It was, yeah, so I obviously, built a lot more on what I had done in the previous show. So, and bought a lot better package, and, a better presentation for stage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what happened at that next show? Did you improve your placing?
Yes, I got my pro card at
Wow.
that show. So, yeah, so and that was it was probably one of the best weekends of my life. It was just one of those, with all the stars align, and sometimes you have those days where your makeup is really good and your hair is really good, and I felt amazing. And it was in Sydney, and all my family was there, my mum and my dad and my husband and the kids, and Phil said they were in the audience, and I didn't know, but they had T-shirts with my face on them, and they were like jumping up and down. I get teary. They were jumping up and down on the chairs. I was like, I felt like a rock star. It was really, really, really good. It was amazing.
Yeah, incredible. Was that the goal when you started competing? Like, did you want to go pro or did you just want to give it a
Yes.
go? You did, yeah.
I would have still kept going if I didn't turn pro, but it was like I kind of visualized it, and it was sort of, it was something that was like on my list of what I wanted to do. And I probably didn't realize it would happen so soon after that first show as well. So it was just, yeah, it was a really, really, really good moment. It was and I felt, because I had, that self-doubt, because obviously being that bit older too, it kind of made me feel like validated too, that, okay, I'm not being silly, because because I've also struggled because I'm not an influencer, I'm not a PT, I'm not involved in the fitness industry. I'm basically just like a wife and a mum that loves going to the gym, and I love having that kind of goal. And it just made me feel like, okay, like I belong here. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And what emotions actually like ran through your head when they called out your name that you were pro?
Oh gosh, I think I ran. I was like, hey, it was just, and I think, like I said, the kids were there and I could see them kind of like, jumping up and down. And it was a really tough prep, that one as well. We'd had a couple of family holidays leading quite close to the competition, and I going out for dinner with scales, and we had it like, we went on one with friends as well, and everybody else is having a drink. And I felt like I missed out on a lot of life for it. So it was kind of a lot of relief as well. And that particular show, Christina Angeline, my posing coach, she turned pro as well. So I remember like her and I out the back, just like, having a cry. And it was special.
Yeah, that's so special. And then you went to Worlds after that, right? For your pro debut?
So pretty much had like a week off and then back into prep, because Worlds was in August, and that was kind of just like a whirlwind of, like, it was just kind of crazy that, my husband was like, well, we may as well do it. Like, he's great. He's like my biggest supporter, and he's like, you got to do it. You may as well do it. You don't really have that much time left. And I'm like, I'm not dying. Like, I'm just getting older. And it was fantastic. Like, it was like, I'm glad I did it, because like that's all done now. But it was, I felt like an athlete. It was, and being around, like, Tani and Abby and the girls that you kind of, like, just idolized. It was pretty surreal, especially because it happened so quickly as well. Like, I didn't really have time to kind of get my head around it. I just kind of went.
Yes, amazing. And then how did the
Yeah.
pro debut go?
It was great. Like, I placed third in 45 plus, and it was probably the most relaxed I've ever been on stage. I don't know if it was because I didn't know anybody in the audience except for my husband, because I get a little bit kind of nervy. But yeah, it was, and maybe because I was so happy with turning pro that I had no expectations. Like, I was just, no, it was so, like, I was like tagging things on Instagram, like Team Australia. I felt like I was in the Olympics. So I was just really, really grateful to be there and kind of, experience that part. Like, I sort of felt like I was at like the pinnacle of where the sport was. So it was a really, really great experience.
Yeah, that's so special. And then from there, like what improvements did you make to become a pro champion?
So from there, I really understood that you need to grow to, if you want to be competitive. And I kind of, being maybe around, like, like girls that have got these beautiful, big bums, and it's like no longer, I didn't like the skinny look anymore. I wanted to sort of, have that shape. It's sort of, it's like it all just kind of clicked. So, and I, understood that, I need to like eat and, and really train with intention as well. I started going up to, because I'm on the Gold Coast and Ali's in Brisbane, so I drive up to her once a week and just do a training session with her. And she just implemented some like amazing, really simple bits into my training, more of sort of just that, mind muscle connection and training with intention. That's when I really started to notice, like, that things were actually changing and my shape was changing. And yeah, so, but then I had a bit of a health setback last year, so I couldn't train for 12 weeks. So I didn't get that full time that I needed to get to actually where I wanted to be. So that's why I'm excited for this prep now to actually like fulfill it to.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. But you're also, you're a mum, you're a wife, you're doing so many other things as well as competing and prepping. So, how do you manage your time and approach all of these different aspects of your life?
Yeah, look, I'm not a very organized person by nature. I'd like to think that I am, but I'm just not. So I've really had to work on my time management, and particularly when you're in like a growth phase and like you're eating so much so regularly. So I really find that, I have to sort of, just spend like Sunday afternoon making sure that I've just got everything ready to go, bits and pieces in the freezer if I need it. So that's probably the time management. I have to really kind of take like a little bit of time just for me as well. Like I need just to try and make sure that I am getting everything done right. Like it's, the partner guilt and the mum guilt is a bit of a thing that I struggle with as well. Because as you know, like it's a bit of an isolating, selfish sport. So it can be difficult to make sure that that you don't kind of like not give time to the people around you. But I'm lucky, like my husband and my kids are super super supportive, so that makes it easier. But yeah, it's probably, and making sure I get enough sleep so I can actually function.
Yes, sleep is so important. But just going back to the mum
Definitely.
guilt as well, what advice would you give to someone else who's prepping with kids and struggling with mum guilt?
Oh, look, I train in the more early in the mornings. I'm lucky my kids have all finished school now. I had two finish grade 12 last year. So my days are not as bad with them, and they don't want to hang out with me as much as they used to. But I just make sure that you just dedicate that time, and they love training as well. So and my husband and I, we got them into the gym when they were quite young, not young, but so it's sort of like a bit of a family thing as well. And I've got one that just pretty much sticks on the same meal plan as me, so it's sort of trying to get them involved in that healthy lifestyle and healthy eating. And that's kind of helped us as a family kind of connect on that level.
Yeah, I love that. Do you feel like your journey in bodybuilding has impacted their lives in a positive way?
Yeah, look, I think they're very proud. Just that because I'm old and and I did it, and but I think that it really, because we started when they were like 13, 14. I think that it's going to be like a lasting thing, because it's just embedded into them, like healthy lifestyle. And that's just that it's not a, we don't think if we're going to the gym, it's just we just part of the morning routine. I think that, like it's probably made an impact that they probably don't realise,
Yeah, I
I
feel like
hope.
they're very lucky to have that influence and that knowledge as well, like, going into their adult years too. I think it'll get them so far
Yes,
ahead, which is amazing.
yes, let's
So,
hope so.
yeah, going back to your build phase, I know, you've obviously increased your calories a lot. You said you used to eat, 1,000 calories and now you're eating, what, 3,000 plus?
3,000.
Yeah. How do you get all of the food in? Like, are you hungry at all?
Oh, look, do you know what? It's so funny. Every now and then I wake up in the middle of the night hungry, and I'm like, how could I be hungry? Because obviously it's just kind of made everything like work so quick. But I just eat regularly. That's what, like, I just have to kind of make them a little bit smaller and just make some of them a little bit calorie dense. So yeah. So, but I love it now. Like I have my creamed rice and protein powder at like 5:30 in the morning, and I feel like I'm having dessert. It's amazing. And I think that like it's easy to try and like make it work when you can see it working. So, like because I always struggled to eat prior to training. It was, I hated that feeling of training with food in my belly. But now, then I can see that I'm actually, lifting so much heavier. And I think that, those things that, that are a little bit tough, when you can see results, it makes it easier to keep going.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think like starting with your food early and breaking it up into lots of meals is super important. Like personally, I'm a big eater. I don't really struggle to get all of my calories in, but in saying that, like, I'm eating at 5:30 in the morning too. And then, you're having pre-workout snack, you're having breakfast, a snack, lunch, another snack, dinner, dessert, like
Yeah.
broken up into lots of meals. You're pretty much just eating all day.
Yes.
And like you said, being
Yeah.
organized is super important too. Like if you've got the food there, it's so easy to just, heat it up and eat it.
So much easier. Yeah, I've actually got like a mini fridge in my bedroom. So I literally just wake up and go like get my cream rice that's already like in the portions in the fridge, just so it's just because I'll forget to eat it otherwise because I'm tired
Yeah, I love that. That sounds
and
like
not hungry.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Just roll out of bed and eat the carbs.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I tell you what, this cut's gonna suck.
Yeah. So tell me about your next goals then. Like you mentioned, you're going into another prep soon.
Yes, so I am training now for Worlds in September. I'd originally thought that because I wanted to do a couple of shows because there's so many amazing destinations this year, but I didn't want to do it too close to Worlds because what I've realised from when I did Worlds after I got my card in Sydney, my body doesn't fare very well doing preps back to back. Like I tend to get like I remember after Worlds I looked like I was 100. Like I just get a little bit too lean. So I wanted to do a show in the beginning of the year and then Worlds at the end of the year. But then I had an accident at Christmas time, so I couldn't train. So I'm accident prone. I'm very accident prone. So yeah, so I was going to do Texas, but that ended up not being possible. So just going for Worlds, and then we'll just see how everything's kind of faring, and then I might try and do another one at the end of the year, maybe. I'd like to go to Dubai,
Yeah.
and Bali's so close, like it's so yes. So that's the but yeah, my I'm just kind of mostly focused on Worlds and growing and just trying to tick all the boxes and start posing early now because that's the other thing that I struggle with a little bit as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you on the world stage. I'll be there watching for sure. How are
Yeah,
you
thank
feeling
you.
going into this prep? Does it feel different to previous preps?
Yeah, I'm excited. Um, I like I've it's funny I think in the past, like I said before, I've been a little bit of a ninja on social media, and I get in my head a little bit. And this year I kind of I'm just excited, like I'm excited because like it's Worlds and it's on the Gold Coast, and it's yeah, I don't know how many years that I have left in me. I struggle to walk in high heels. I'm trying to just like embracing, when I kind of have that those moments of self-doubt, and I just remember how far I've come, and just also realize that, prep is a privilege, and the hard bits come with the good outcomes, and it's a choice as well. Like I'm choosing to do this. So, there's no point, making it difficult, just kind of, embrace every aspect of it. And that's just part of the journey. And sometimes when it's hard as well, it kind of makes the reward even sweeter because you've actually, you've really dug in hard to get there. Yeah, so I'm excited to I say to my husband every morning, I'm like, does my bum look big? Does my bum look big? So yeah, so I'm just excited to see what sort of, what can actually happen.
Yes, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. So competing in bikini at 45 plus is so inspiring. Has competing changed your perspective on like fitness and aging and everything around that?
100%. Like I said, like I've always trained. It's probably only been, maybe the last 10 years that I haven't sort of, I used to do like a lot of cardio. I was a runner, I do group classes. And I sort of slowly just started minimizing the cardio part of it and more weight training. And then obviously in the last couple of years, just, getting more and more into the weight training. And it's like I feel healthier, I feel stronger, I feel more confident, and I feel like, there's some things that, as much as, cardio and group classes are great for heart health and whatnot, there's just some things that only weight training, especially when you get older, like everything starts to, get, a little bit, saggy and a little bit lower. And I find it's the only thing that can kind of, make everything fill out and sit up where it used to be. Like I've got a girlfriend and she's a chronic Zoomer. And she's like, I'll post a photo and she'll be like, what have you done to your knees? I'm like, it's just weight. So I'm like, I haven't had any work done. It's just because I really think it's that one thing for, especially for women, that can, actually, change your body shape.
Yeah, amazing. And what would you say to other women your age who might think it's too late to start something like bodybuilding?
Oh gosh, it's never too late. There was a lady that was competing in October, and she was 54, and she just looked phenomenal, and she had the best attitude and the best mindset. And I kind of, because I was sort of thought, oh God, like, what is the cutoff age? And there isn't. What, when you want to do it, is there's no restriction. There's nothing that, age doesn't define you. And I kind of, obviously when that little bit older, you have those insecurities and you have, a little bit of, self-doubt. I'm thinking like, oh, the girl's going to be nice to me. And is this, but it is such a beautiful community and everybody is so lovely. And like I say to people all the time, like, it's just, if it's something that you're thinking about doing, do it. But like, because the only time is getting away. So, and it will change your mind. It will change your mind, change your life. It will change your perspective, and and you have such a appreciation for this lifestyle. And it's all only good stuff. Like it's yeah, it's life changing.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you mentioned self-doubt or, a little bit of negative self-talk. How do you deal with that during your prep and your off season as well?
Look, it's something that I do struggle with a bit. Like the amount of times that I go to post something on Instagram, and then I put it in my drafts, and then I just get in my head about it, and I think, oh God, like, people think that I'm trying to be a model, or like, what are people going to think? And then I just kind of remind myself that I actually love seeing other people's journeys, like, particularly, older women, because that they're just doing it for them. They're not doing it, for social media. They're not doing it because they're a personal trainer. They're just doing it because it's what they love. So I just try and remind myself that people will probably always judge you, but, the majority of people are actually, like inspired and actually want to see you and see what you're accomplishing.
Yes, that's so true. I feel like you never truly know like how many people you're actually inspiring with what you're putting out there and what you're doing, and it really is quite incredible.
Oh my gosh, it's either every now and then, like I'll get a lovely message from somebody, and it makes me cry. Like it makes me so, yeah. I feel so like, like honoured that, that someone sort of, looks at my journey and, it inspires them. So I love that.
Yeah, I love that. And how has bodybuilding influenced other areas of your life?
But obviously, like the, diet and the nutrition side of it, like, has probably been the biggest one, because it's just, completely changed my relationship with food and into a much healthier state as well. And but probably the discipline that comes with it as well. Like it's not just, obviously, like it's a tough sport, and you do have to be very disciplined. So that kind of filters off into other aspects of your life as well. So, if you can sort of, go without having a wine for 9 months, like pretty much anything is possible. And obviously they're being organised as well, because, being organised, with that side of it kind of filters on into everything else as well. So it's just those few little kind of lifestyle changes that actually end up kind of just making it like a really well balanced life.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like it has so many positive impacts and like enhances or teaches you skills that is so helpful for other areas of your life.
100%, even when you don't realize it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you
Yeah.
have any last words of advice for someone who wants to compete or people who are new to competing?
I think the best thing that you can do is get a coach that aligns with you and your values. I think I feel really lucky to have the coach that I have, especially being like an older woman that is going through that, change of life stage as well. So it's having somebody like, for me, that is like a woman that has got the credentials to be able to, help me with, hormone imbalances and everything like that. So that's a really key thing. The posing thing, like start posing yesterday, is the biggest advice based on my first experience. And just enjoy the process. Like it goes so quickly. And I think that, like I said before, like it's, like you've put in so much hard work and, you've sacrificed so much and, and you've chosen to be here. Just make the most of every moment because it goes by like that, and take lots of photos. I never take enough photos.
Yes, I love that advice so much. And taking photos is such an important piece of advice. And also, if you are competing, like clear your camera roll before show day, because I know so many competitors fill up their memory and like can't take more photos and they're desperately backstage trying to delete things. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I will link your socials down below so that people can follow any updates that you post or your journey to Worlds. I'm so excited to
Thank
see
you.
you on the World stage.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for your time as well. It was really cool to hear more of your journey, and it is truly so inspiring.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it.
No worries. And thanks so much to our listeners as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you could rate this podcast and follow on whatever platform you're listening on, and also share this episode to your stories if you got anything out of it, let us know what you're doing while you're listening to it, and tag Danny and myself as well so that we can see that you're listening. We love to see it. Thanks so much.